Gonna start the video in a second. Okay, I think I can talk now. Okay, so this video is about a few different things. I made a video about Patreon recently because there's been a lot of outrage because in today's culture, these companies like Patreon and Twitter and any other large company, they're stuck in a position right now where they're canceling people's accounts when they say something a bit controversial or something kind of, that is not, well, I guess you can look at it any way. Somebody says something and they don't like it. I guess you could say that whatever that person said is fine. It doesn't matter. Everyone has their own opinion. But the idea is you say something and some company doesn't like it and they close your account. Whether it's because they didn't like it or it's because they feel pressure from another company and they're like, okay, this is bad for our business. We're going to terminate this person's account. And there's a lot of outrage because it's like, so what's going on? We're not allowed to have free speech anymore. People are really paranoid about that. And in that video that I made about Patreon, I said this could go two ways. And there's always a possibility of it going both ways. It could either eventually balance out, because the idea is we're trying to evolve to a place where we're like a kinder, more gentler society, right? Where we're more accepting of each other. And because of that, since that's the new thing you're supposed to do, everyone is trying to outdo the other person. Watch how accepting I am. I saw a person with blue jeans and that was offensive because other people can't afford blue jeans. It's like, it gets really crazy. It's like, let me show you guys how amazing and accepting I am. I just shaved all my hair off because I know somebody who can't grow their own hair and I didn't want to offend them. So I just shaved my hair off. It gets to ridiculous levels because that's what's as accepted as that's what you're supposed to do now. Be super over the top accepting and not offend anybody in any way whatsoever. But the idea is eventually it'll balance out and we'll reach like a reasonable level of niceness and acceptance. Of course, it could also go the other way where it just becomes this place where you're not allowed to say anything anymore. It could go both ways. But, I'm hoping it goes in a way where eventually it'll balance out and we'll have a nicer, gentler society. So what is this video really about? Because I'm not rehashing that entire debate. Well, it's about this new stage of evolution. So we're trying to be nicer and gentler and more accepting of people, right? But here's the irony in that. We're trying to evolve so like everybody of every race and whatever your sexual preference, whatever you're poor, rich, we're trying to just be accepting of everybody, right? Great, right? Here's the next step in evolution that we should probably take. So there's like this whole super acceptance movement and it's great. I mean, it doesn't seem great now because it's so over the top. Like I said, eventually it'll balance out because you have to understand the general public just hops on whatever is going on. Oh, memes are popular right now. Let's make everything into a meme. Oh, what's the thing right now? And then everybody goes over the top with it, right? That's just the way we are as a society. We're generally followers. We're not really leaders. Like whatever the social norm becomes, everyone could be like whatever the thing is, like literally anything. It's like, maybe coffee is trendy, right? I'm drinking coffee right now. Everyone's like, yeah, coffee's awesome. And then 2 seconds later, we realize that coffee's not trendy and it sucks. Everyone's like, yeah, fuck coffee. Like, no matter however the general, I know the coffee was kind of a stupid example, but the idea is whatever the general consensus is on a society, the second it changes, everyone else is like, yeah, fuck. Of course. Now, this is going to be a really iffy issue, just a random example because the coffee one was so idiotic. Let me give you a more maybe powerful example to show how like people just mindlessly, whatever the social norm is. Yeah. So now I'm not condoning this, but back in the day, it's like, like they would sell off like 12-year-old women to get married. And that was normal because, well, they've gone through puberty and now it's time for them to be a woman and have babies and start a family. That was normal. Of course, now, if you not sold off or whatever, they just got married at 12. If that happened now, people would be like, that's disgusting, right? Why? Because it's not socially accepted anymore. And you think, well, yeah, but 12 is kind of extreme. Fair enough. But how about like the fact that like there's always this like outrage? What did I see recently? Something to do with Drake. You know, the rapper Drake. I saw a video and people are going crazy over about it because he's dancing on stage with a 17-year-old girl. They're like, oh, he's a pedophile. He's a rapist. It's so funny how we're not taught from the time we're little to have any fucking common sense. And we're always taught like choose option A or option B. And when you're taught that from an early age, where you're not promoted to use your judgment and common sense, and we're taught that you choose option A or option B, you become mentally not capable of having common sense because you always go by the book. It's like, like you get a new job at a place. These are the 20 rules. A customer walks in. Oh, sorry, sir. Rule number 4 says this. So that's like, we're not told people, hey, you starting a job here? Okay, here's some reasonable rules by the book here that we written, 20 logical rules. But they're not 100%. Sometimes you can go above this book and like use your own judgment if you need to sort of alter it around a bit. We're not taught that. We're taught it's either A or B. That's why Western culture is all just basically A and B, left and the right, the blue and the red. It's never like, we're not taught that it's usually never just A or B. It's some sort of weird mixture of A and B. But we don't understand that. So it's like so now people see Drake with a 17-year-old girl dancing on stage and they're like, well, either he's a man and he's awesome or he's a pedophile. It's got to be one or the other. It can't just be like a thing of like, well, she's 17. That's kind of up for debate. Like some people might consider that a little too young to be dancing on stage and kissing her. And some other people are like, 17 and 18 is basically the same thing. It's like, what? So like if she was 18, he would be a cool, awesome man, like getting a chick. But like if she's like a couple of days younger, he's a pedophile now. Like it goes from like A and B. There's no middle range at all. It's either like you look at the comment section, 50% of the people are like, oh, he's a pedophile rapist. And the other 50% are like, whoa, relax. She's like, like 17, 18 is almost the same thing. So like he's that much of a monster. Like there's no common sense to to reach a reasonable conclusion. It's either A or B. He's either just a cool guy dancing with a girl on stage and kissing her, or he's basically a pedophile rapist. That's it. And every story I hear about and I read comments, it's people have zero fucking common sense. Every single human being is either A or B. Like it's never, well, yeah, this is up for debate. Like this is, I can see it going either way. No, it's either, oh, you're this or you're that. And nothing is ever usually A or B. The existence and reality is not that cut and dry where someone's A or B. None of you are A or B. Every single one of you, the 3 people that are going to watch this video, remember, you're not A or B. You know what you are? You're a fucking piece of shit. But you're also a good person too. That's all of us. Whatever the fuck delusion you have over yourself, oh, look at me, I'm better than that. That guy over there, let me comment. How dare you do that? You're a piece of shit. Do you know how I know you're a piece of shit? Because everyone's a fucking piece of shit. There's no saints. Do you know? Guess how many saints exist in the world today? 0. You know why? Because we're fucking human beings. We're all fucking stupid pieces of shit sometimes, and sometimes we're really sweet and nice. And the whole point of us is every day as we grow, as we try to be nicer, and less of a piece of shit, but it's always a work in progress. No one's attained perfection, as far as I know, quite yet. And maybe it's not even the idea of attaining perfection. It's just the idea of the attempt, right? It's a noble attempt, because we know that perfection probably doesn't really exist. It's kind of like whenever you paint a picture, you want it to be the most perfect picture you could paint, even though you realistically, there's no such thing as a perfect painting, but it's the noble attempt. This is going to be the best painting I could ever possibly do. That's all we're ever trying to do. So maybe the next step in our evolution, so now we're accepting of homosexuals and people of all races and colors, because you got to remember, just a little bit ways back, these were not common things. You have to understand, like, even when I went to high school, people who were it was basically no one came out. There was nobody in my high school who was like openly gay. That would have never happened. They would have gotten probably beaten up. Now it's like a normal thing. Right now if you say, I don't agree with that, you look like as a monster, because the social norm has changed. And people just kind of puppet the social norm. Whatever the social acceptance is, that's what we puppet. Because like I said, we're not taught common sense. So we have to just sort of pick A or B. That's it. And so I think, since we're more accepting, and it's like, that's nice and everything, that's beautiful, even though like it does seem really wacky right now because we're over the top accepting and inclusive. Let's play a soccer game, but both teams win because we don't want to offend the other team. They'll cry. Like it's just over the top. Let's make everyone feel like they're precious and an angel, But hopefully that'll balance out. So what's the next step in evolution over that? Well, it's actually attaining some common sense. And because we have to stop looking at things as either being A or B. This person's either this or there's that. And it's such a, not to mention, when you see, I read a news story yesterday. This is the main reason why I wanted to make this video. I read a news story yesterday. Canadian's death sentence could increase tensions with China. So apparently, this guy, he was smuggling some sort of drug into China. I don't know exactly what drug it was. It's irrelevant. Just invented another drug. So he was inventing some illegal substance in China, like a lot of it, like 200 kilograms or some crazy amount. He was smuggling drugs into China, a Canadian man, right? So now he got caught and he's being sentenced to die. Like China's giving him the death sentence, right? Because and just reading comments, like, again, people see it as A or B. So it's basically, it's just the idea of, oh, yeah, well, yeah, he deserves it. He was smuggling drugs, and this is the second time he's done it, so yeah. I mean, kill him, obviously. And it's this sort of lack of any sort of empathy for another human being that's so fucked up. That we can actually just look at stuff and be like, well, yeah, well, he did it. He did it, so yeah, execute him. Just like that cut and dry. There's no sort of abstract middle area where you can have any sort of empathy to think, well, you know what? Yeah, he fucked up really bad. I don't know what the answer to this is, but like, yeah, it's pretty fucked up. We can talk about, have a debate. No, it's just, yeah, don't kill him. Obviously, he did it. Who cares? This one person left a comment. It started with the words "who cares," but then he started writing. I'm like, why are you even still writing shit? You just started off the sentence with this man. The news story is this man was sentenced to death, and you start off your sentence, your paragraph with "who cares." Then why the fuck are you even writing? Then who cares, right? Just let him get executed. So this idea is, yeah, fucking good right, man. It's a good thing we're executing him because, like, he deserves to die because he was going to smuggle drugs in and those drugs were going to kill a lot of people. Sure, you can look at it that way, right? Right? But it's the idea, this next step in evolution, so we're more accepting now of different races and whatever. So we're becoming super inclusive. Well, you know what else goes with that? Having enough empathy to realize we're all generally the same. Like, there's this like thing where it's like, when like you hear those old stories about people being burned at the stake or some sort of shit where it's like, if this person was like back in the olden days, they would take him downtown somewhere in the town center and they would hang him and everyone's cheering like, yeah. What the fuck is that? What is this going, yeah, for someone being executed? No matter who it is. We've seen this on TV, people being publicly executed and people are like, yeah. That's fucked up because you're basically seeing yourself different than this person being executed. You're like, fucking right, execute him. So basically, you're just a different person than this person. And the idea of the next evolution in humankind is understanding you are that person being hung. And you're thinking, no way, man, I'm better than that. No, you're not. You're a piece of shit. You're just like the guy being hung. Like I said, we're all fucking pieces of shit. Just that guy might be slightly more of a piece of shit right now, so he's being hung. But don't think you can't be hung either. Because you're just as capable of being a piece of shit just like anybody else, right? So when you see that person being hung, the next step in evolution, understand that could have been you, or that could have been your kid, that could have been your daughter, that could have been your brother, that could have been your wife, that could have been anybody, it could have been you. And our separation from other human beings, like I'm this and you're that, that's what needs to change. Because so we're all slightly pieces of shit and we're also good, right? And you think, how can I be less of a piece of shit? There's only one golden rule to make yourself less of a piece of shit. And that is to get rid of your fucking hate for other human beings and realize they're you. And they could be you, you could have been them. So it's like, it's not about attaining perfection, because that might be something that's not ideal to even attain. Because what do you do after attaining perfection? You're just done. But it's the idea of constantly trying to improve. So what is the ultimate step you can take to not be so much of a piece of shit? It's the idea of looking at any other human being who has ever existed and understanding that they were basically just like you. And they might have taken some wrong paths, or maybe something was going on, something happened in their life, and they took a wrong path. Maybe they were beaten up a lot when they were kids. They were abused. Something happened to them and it messed up their brain somehow. And then as adults, they did a lot of fucked up shit. And you're like, fucking right, man. Yeah, the bad guy lost. Execute him. That could have been you. That could have been any one of us. Right? That could have been your kid. It could have been anybody. It's the idea of understanding that we're all the same. You see, it's funny because we have empathy for somebody if they have cancer. If we're told, yeah, my relative has cancer, and you're like, oh, that's a shame. My heart goes out to you. Because they're sick with cancer, right? There's some things that if you're sick with this thing, it's, oh, God bless them. Let's give them a hug. But if you're sick with something else, it's like, fucking right, execute them. They're a piece of shit. Right? Because usually somebody's not born a piece of shit. They're born an innocent human being like all of us, and then shit happens. And that shit that happens to you rewires your brain in some sort of way. And then you become an adult and you do fucked up shit. Right? No one is bored with their life and one day they wake up and says, you know what? I'm really bored. I think I'll be a piece of shit. Nobody does that. Like everybody looks at these people in history, the people that people hate, like, all the horrible people that are generally accepted as being horrible people in history. What all these warmongers like Stalin and Hitler and whoever the fuck the person is, it's a relative, right? We look at them like, yeah, that person was a fucking monster, and yeah, that person deserves everything that's bad. And it's like, if you can get to a place where every single person that's generally accepted as being who was like the worst person ever, how we always use the example, wow, that person is worse than this person and some famous person who existed. I don't even want to mention their specific names because it's pointless. It's the idea of like, you have to get to a place, it's like, how can I be a less piece of shit? You have to get to a place where every single person throughout history that was generally considered as being horrible, they were they killed millions of people or whatever they did, you have to look at that person, understand that they're just like you. They took some fucked up turns. Maybe they were fucking abused as a kid. Maybe something happened to them. But understand that nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm bored with my life. Let me be a piece of shit. Nobody does that. Right? Because if your wiring's a bit off in your brain, you justify everything you do. Let's say there was somebody throughout history who was like, you know what, I should do this. And he ends up killing millions of people. And in his mind, he actually thought he was the good guy. He was doing what was right for humanity. Right? Because we always convince ourselves. So it's not like that person was trying to be a piece of shit. It's just that their brain might have been like rewired slightly different. Like I said, maybe something happened to them. Maybe they were abused. Maybe... whatever the case, the idea is to look at any other human being, whether they were a complete monster and they killed millions of people, to look at them and have enough empathy to understand that they were just a baby like you, they were born, and somehow, whether their brain was kind of messed up, whatever it was, they were convinced that killing millions of people was a good idea. And you look at that and you have to look at that and have empathy for them and feel bad, not be like, fucking right, yeah, execute them. We're never going to evolve past anything decent when we have that attitude, you know? Oh, read a news story. Oh, a man got caught smuggling drugs into China and he's being executed. Fucking right, yeah. Again, we're no different than we were thousands of years ago. Like I said, when they used to take people, drag them down in the center square and hang them or burn them, and we're like, fucking right, yeah. We're doing the same shit 2,000 years later. We haven't evolved enough past that at all. You know? We went to some other country and we found their leader and now we're going to show them on TV being executed. Fucking right. We got to evolve past that. Cheering for someone's death. We got to fucking evolve past that. That's the next step. We have to understand that the worst people throughout history who've done a lot of fucked up shit, they were once just an innocent baby that was born too. And they took some fucking wrong paths. I'm not saying to be happy by the fucked up shit they did. They did fucked up, horrible shit. They caused a lot of pain to people. But understand that could be any one of us. Any one of us could be that person. So imagine someone cheering your own death. It's fucked up to cheer someone's death, even if they did horrible things. We need to evolve to have some sort of empathy for other human beings. So we're not like, who fucking cares? They did bad shit. Now they're going to fucking get hung. Who cares? Who gives a shit? Anytime you kill another human being, even if they're your quote unquote enemy in war, let's say you go to war and you fucking kill somebody. You don't kill somebody and just cheer. At the heart, if you have enough empathy, you realize, well, that's a shame. I had to kill another human being. When you have to kill another human being, that's a fucking shame. Even though like you're doing it, it's not something you cheer and like have a dance over. It's insane, right? We have to have enough empathy to understand that some people take the wrong path in life, and it's not something to cheer once they get executed. It could be any one of us. It's as simple as that. That has to be the next stage of our goddamn evolution. Understanding that we're all basically the same. And anytime you cheer someone being executed, or you're like, fucking right, who cares? They did bad things and now they're getting executed. We need to evolve past that. We were that way 2,000 years ago. Like I said, we got to do better. We've had 2,000 years to evolve past, dragging someone to the center square and seeing them burned or hung and we're all cheering. We gotta eventually, that's the next step in our evolution, to have actual genuine empathy for other human beings and not be like, well, he did a bad thing, now he's paying the price, big deal. We have to evolve past that. So because this whole let's just be super accepting of each other, that might end up looking like complete bullshit if we actually don't develop actual genuine empathy for each other. You know? That's it. There's nothing else that really needs to be said. That's got to be our next stage of evolution. It's good now that we're accepting of your sexual preferences, and it's good that, day by day we're understanding like that racism is insane, like the way we used to, oh, that person's of a different color, you know, we understand those things are crazy now. We're accepting of different races, and who cares who you want to sleep with, you know, like it doesn't matter, all these things. And these things were a big deal 20, 30 years ago. People were like, but now we've evolved past that, and we're trying to evolve past that. But our next step has to be to actually have genuine empathy. See, because what do I mean by that? Well, because now it's almost like we're super accepting, almost just because it's the social norm. Because if you're not accepting of those things, you're outcast. You have to be accepting of different sexual preferences and different races, because that's a social norm. So if you say something about that now, you'd be looked at as like a monster. So you have to be accepting, but it's almost like forced upon you to be a nicer person. Maybe you don't even want to be. Maybe you're that fucking asshole who has no empathy for anybody, and you write down comments like, who gives a shit? Fucking kill him. That's what we need to evolve past, right? Because it's not about attaining perfection. It's about understanding that whatever happens to me, it could be you. And whatever happens to you, it could be me. And we're all generally the same. And that's it. Because if you understand that that person you're watching getting executed, the person watching, you know, you're watching somebody being executed. When you truly understand that that could be you, or it could be your kid, it could be anybody, you're not going to sit there. Would you be cheering if it was your own kid? Fucking right, kill my own kid. He did a bad thing, now we're executing him. Fucking right. Right? You wouldn't be doing that. So that's it. So that's our next step of evolution, having actual genuine empathy for each other and understanding we're all the same. And it's not some social norm that's being forced upon that. You actually genuinely feel it and understand it. And that's it. So I hope my little rant was fun. And that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.